Hey there, today we're going to learn about a very important part about working with poultry, and that's fabrication. We're going to start off with a chicken today. There's fabrication of chicken, turkey, duck, and goose. Once you've learned one, the anatomies are similar. It's pretty straightforward from there. Chicken's the best place to start. It's usually the least expensive and easiest to work with because it's the most common product that people choose to consume. We're going to start off with how to have and quarter a chicken. So we have our chicken right now. It's resting on its spine, breasts up. I'm going to go ahead, flip it over carefully like so. When working with chicken, you want to make sure that you keep it in one area without spreading it around too much. You work your boning knife along the spine. There we go. Be very careful. So as we're opening it up, we're showing an important part of the process is you want to remove all the gizzards and the giblets. So we're going to take all that and put it off to the side so it's not in the way. Typically you may want to do that beforehand. Just be aware that usually when you buy poultry from the grocery store, they leave the neck and the organs and the giblets intact and you want to remove them. We've gone along one side of the spine. Always move your product. You shouldn't be moving. And because I'm right-handed, I want to have my knife over here and cut away. So I'm going to move the chicken to the other side and find the other side of the spine and work my way down, carefully removing it. So you're carefully working the knife down the other side of the spine. We've successfully removed the spine of the chicken. We're going to set that off to the side. I always like to have some sort of tray or vessel for all the parts to keep it nice and organized so that I'm not contaminating the work area. So we've successfully removed the spine. I'm going to turn it back around, open it up. And you're going to find this center right here of the chicken where the two breasts meet. And I'm going to slowly take my knife and work it down. Careful of cartilage and the bone right here. Right? You find your little wishbone right there, you're going to snap that. And then you don't want to saw, you want to bring your knife through nice and clean. We've now successfully halved the chicken. Depending on how you're going to cook your chicken next, you can leave the wings on, you can remove them. I'm going to take them off at this time. So you're going to find this joint between the wing and the drumette. Very carefully, you find where it meets, run your knife through, nice clean cut. Do it again on this side. Right through, nice clean cut. So now we have successfully quartered our chicken. If you look at it, you can see you have your breast, you have your thigh, you have your drums, your legs. This is a basic half-roasted chicken that you might find in a restaurant for dinner. Sometimes restaurants will serve it. Now you want to get down into quartering. You're going to find with your fingers right here, maybe even use the back of your knife, and you can see the separation point. Kind of feel it in there between the dark meat and the white meat, the breast and the thigh. And run my knife very carefully through. You've now separated to your breast, your thigh, and your leg. Some of this extra skin can be cleaned off. Kind of discard the scraps off to the side. So we are going to identify that space again here between the breast and the thigh, and one swift cut. So we've gone through the process. We had the whole bird, we removed the spine, we removed the giblets, we removed the wings, and we've now taken it down to what is called quartering of a chicken. So you have your breasts intact, your thighs, and your legs. So now you've seen how to half and quarter a chicken. You still have the bones intact. It's great for roasting, great for grilling. It's going to help retain some of the moisture when you leave the bones intact, and you're going to get more flavor because there's so much flavor in bones. That's why we like to save the bones for stock. If you wanted to break this down further, you could do so by right here at this joint, splitting with a knife the drum from the thigh, and you would recognize some of those cuts from grocery stores. The drums are usually sometimes served spiced at restaurants, Cajun style or Asian style. The breast, you could go back and you could trim some of this ribs off, some of the bone here. Some chefs will also cut it down into half a breast, which is great for fried chicken that you might see at some of the fast food chains and some of the southern restaurants that you like to patron. Right now we're down to quarters, and we're going to stop there, and I'm going to show you how to fabricate another chicken down to some of the clean breasts and clean thighs that you would see in a grocery store. So very carefully, always being mindful of the surroundings. You don't want to contaminate. Move everything over. I'm using this hand, has chicken on it. This one's free of chicken. I'm going to place everything over here nice and organized so we can cook it off later. We're going to break this down in a different way that's going to yield some products that you're going to recognize from the grocery store, and also leave you a carcass that you can use for chicken stock. I prefer breaking poultry down this way so that I can use the bones that I've received from my vendor when I get my whole chicken to make stock and cross-utilize the entire poultry. You start off by pulling out the neck and the giblets. Yeah, look at those guys. You can save the livers and you can make chicken liver mousse. It's delicious. I like to trim some of this excess skin off as well when I'm starting out. Place that off to the side. Trim it off of here as well. And then grab my wings and bring my wings off. Place that off to the side as well. Makes for a great snack halfway through a long day in the kitchen. Place it off, nice and neat, organized, tucked away. Okay. Next up, I come here and I find that separation point. You can see right there between your breast and your thigh and your drumstick. And I'm going to start to very carefully slide my knife. No rush, take your time. If you haven't done this before, you might mess up, you might leave a little bit of meat. It's okay, it takes practice. This isn't something that you're just going to get overnight. But you feel the chicken and it tells you where the knife should go. The knife will hit resistance on bone. You can feel there's a bone right there. So you're going to come and just score along the chicken skin. As you're scoring along the carcass, you can feel the bones. And you get to this joint right here where the thigh meets the spine. And you find that very carefully, slowly, taking your time. You want to try to get as much meat off the carcass of the poultry as possible. You've removed your thigh and your leg. I'm going to place that over here. We're going to get back to these in a little bit. And because I'm right-handed and I always want to make sure my food's doing what I tell it to, instead of cutting at it awkwardly like this, spin it around. It's okay to move product on the cutting board. It's safer that way. Same thing though, you're going to look and you're going to see your chicken breast and your thigh, and you're going to find that region. You start here with some of this excess skin, scoring. Sometimes people like to pull on it and score closer to the thigh so you have more of the skin coverage on the breast. So if you want to keep the skin intact on the breast later and you sear it, it doesn't shrivel up and fall off. So you want to kind of pull on it this way, like so, and score closer here. And that way you're getting more coverage of skin on the breast. For if you want to do a crispy skin on chicken breast seared, it's going to cover the breast and not shrivel up when you're cooking it later. So continue to score down. All right? And you're finding those bones again on this side, like so. You work your way down. You can get in there with your hand and you hear that snap. You're pulling the joint apart. Right? You've now successfully removed the thighs and the legs from your chicken carcass. You see a little excess skin you don't want there, you can go ahead and remove that. Put that off to the side. So now we're down to the breasts. I'm going to show you how to pull them off the carcass so you get that nice clean chicken breast that you're used to seeing at the grocery store. The skin is intact for now. Obviously afterwards you can remove the skin and you have your boneless, skinless chicken breast that all of you know and love at the grocery store. I'm going to start off by working my knife down the center right here. And the knife is important. I use the tip of the boning knife. And as I'm working it down, you can feel the bone. You can feel it. All right? Really like smooth strokes. You can feel the bone. You're going to start getting your way down to the ribs. Nice smooth strokes. Take your time. There's no rush. You see you start hitting. And you don't want to saw. You want to do strokes. And follow the previous stroke as best as you can. So you're going to continue to do nice, slow knife strokes. There's no rush. But you can see we're cleaning it away from the carcass. We're trying to minimize how much we leave on there. And then you get down to that lovely little joint right here. And you see that joint right there. And that one is this little guy right here. So you see this little drumette is attached right here at this spine. Okay, we've got our breast starting to work its way free, and we find this joint. It's already been dislocated, so it's going to be an easy cut. We've now gotten down to what we call in the business an airline chicken breast. You may have seen this in a restaurant or seen it at a grocery store. It got its name from in the 70s when they served chicken breasts on airlines. They would leave this drumette on the breast to make it look bigger. So you can either go ahead and remove it at this point if you wanted to do so. I like to flip it over so I can see where the bone is and go in and work like so. So you're leaving as much of the breast intact, and then you have your little drumette that you could use for chicken wings. Let's set that off to the side. I'm gonna leave the skin on because I like the skin, its flavor, it's crispy texture when you sear it off. We're gonna go ahead and put the chicken breast off to the side as well. So we still have one breast left. We gotta get that off as well. We don't wanna leave that by itself. I like to flip it around since I'm right-handed and find that spine. You just work your knife very carefully along the carcass. Very slow, no rush. Maybe you've done it a million times and you're professional. But for those of you that haven't ever done this before, take your time, it's okay. We get back down to that same joint. Let's not forget about that. See that we're getting towards that bone again. We have our drumette, we have our breast. You can see the bone. Already wanting to split free. We still have this drumette we want to remove. So that's removed. I like to keep everything together so I can assign it for how I'm going to cook it. Flip my breast over, make sure the skin's still intact, looking pretty good. Move that over here. And we have our carcass left. Place that over here nice and neat. Dirty cutting board. Every other part of the kitchen is nice and clean and sanitary. We have successfully broken down our chicken into breasts, carcass, drumettes, wings. So we're back to our dark meat, the thigh and the leg that we left attached earlier. There's two ways you can go about it. I'm going to show you both. One on the first one and one on the other. You can remove the bone by scoring. I find this technique for removing the bone from the thigh to be easiest. I like to leave it all intact first, and then I'll score a lot. You see the bone here, and you can follow it. You can score it until you get, there's a joint right here where the two bones meet. But you leave yourself this to hold on to. You have something to hold on to work with. And you just kind of scrape along that bone. Get in there with your fingers a little bit. Let's move it around. Scrape, scrape, scrape. That way you're not losing all the product. Right? Very delicately, it's kind of tearing away a little bit on its own. Use your knife. So we've gotten down to that joint. You split it away very carefully. Careful. Right. Bones removed. I'm going to put that over here. And I'm looking and I'm thinking, nice, beautiful thigh, boneless, drumette. Now have a skin-on, boneless chicken thigh. So now I'm going to show you the other way you can do it. It's going to give you the same end result. I like to leave the leg intact during that process. It gives me a little extra something to hold on to, you know. Or maybe you want to bone in thigh. Works, maybe not for grilling. But you can go ahead and start off by splitting it right at that joint. You have your leg. Let's sit that over there, nice and neat. Now we're either at that point where we can leave the bone in, or we can go ahead and clean it out. You can see the ends of the bone on either side, like so. And you just start to score. Just carefully running. So we're trying to avoid losing as much of the meat as possible. It's okay if there's a little bit on there, because we're going to go ahead and flip this over and inspect it, make sure it looks pretty good. It's looking good to me. Chicken thigh. So we have the not so attractive but very versatile carcass, bones for stock, sauces, soups. We have our two breasts. Place those in front of you guys like so. We have our two boneless chicken thighs. We have our two lovely drumsticks, our legs. Then we have our drumettes, taken from the airline chicken breast. And last but certainly not least, we have our wings. And that, folks, is how you fabricate poultry.